What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Andrew Cooper here, aka Coupe Fiasco, and you are here for Alarm Fantasy Football. As you can see, still no Howard Bender, still no John and Pemba. They're off doing round ball, boring sports, baseball, basketball, whatever. What we're doing here, though, we're holding down the fort with football, baby, the great American pastime. And I got a football guy here with me to do that. My good buddy Alfredo Brown in the house, and it's a special show because it's our very first best ball draft of the year, family best ball draft, loaded up with family members and my guest Alfredo. So, Alfredo, first off, how you doing today, brother? What's happening?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be invited to be part of your family here today. That makes me feel very, very, accepted and wanted.
You are wanted, man. You are part of the hashtag family. If you could go and click that button and get in the draft, you can also be part of the draft, which
Let's do it.
should load up shortly. For those that have never done one of these, never seen one of these, real quick, what best ball is you do the draft, you draft about 20 players, but you don't set any lineups. It's a real league. You don't have to set any lineups. It automatically slots guys in for you. So we want high risk, high reward players. We're shooting for upside. And keep in mind, you have to draft at least 2 quarterbacks, at least 2 tight ends, because there's going to be bye weeks, there's going to be injuries. So that's the deal. We got people popping in the chat. I see Jack sends it in the house. Jack's also in the draft. I threw this one out to the family members, Alfredo, and within a couple minutes, the regulars were already loaded in. We got people.
And then they saw it was me, and then they're like, dang, we picked the wrong one.
They actually saw that and they said, easy money. Alfredo Brown.
Easy money. Easy money from Alfredo.
Ani Coop in the house saying, what up to Alfredo? You know what? I'm a little disappointed, Alfredo, that I asked you on your AMA on Reddit, how about your wonderful, beautiful hair, and then you're hiding it with a hat today. What's the deal, man?
You know what? And I thought about that, and I was like, you know what? I should do my hair up really, really pretty. And then I just said no. And I threw on a hat. And I'm so sorry, but like I want to reserve that for our in-person meetups. You're
playing hard to get.
I gotta keep you wanting more, dude.
You're playing hard to get, dude.
I can't be cute all the time. It's exhausting.
Oldest trick in the book. Well, you still look cute with the hat on. All right, draft is underway. Let's get the draft board up here on the screen. Yeah, it started when we weren't looking. So there, folks. How can you guys see that? All right. Let me pop this out. Give me a second.
Almost missed my pick here.
I'm up in 2 picks here. Yeah, we're going to do full draft board like this. That's going to be better here. So, yeah, we got some folks in this draft. The guy picking at 1 here, Kismet, also Jack Sensen in the chat. Besides myself, and I was in every single one. Besides myself, he's the only one to win 2 family best ball drafts last year. So we got a ringer in the house. A lot of these names I recognize, Bruce, Boston Money. I mean, every one of these names I recognize, but guys like Icy Through, Hamburglar, Sigma Chai, these guys all were part of, 5, 6, 7 of these drafts last year. So they know their stuff, Alfredo. I got to warn you.
Yeah, that's fine. Listen, I do not think I'm going to do very well in this best ball draft. This is my first one of the off season. I got deep into it last year, and I think I knocked out like 100 of them or something. But it's been a minute. You're breaking me back into the scene right now.
Good. All right. Well, let's start talking about your first pick then. Talk to us about Ceedee Lamb.
Yeah, so Ceedee Lamb, I mean, I was looking here, and it was basically, I kind of came down to Ceedee Lamb or Jamar Chase, and I think that, listen, if we find out that T. Higgins is going elsewhere and he's going to be off of Cincy, I think you could probably lean a little bit more towards Jamar Chase just for the explosive ability. But, I mean, Ceedee Lamb, we got to see what that offense can look like when it is just completely revolving around him. Now, the fact that the Cowboys really don't have much of a rushing attack, at least last year you were worried about Tony Pollard maybe taking catches. It's all Ceedee Lamb right now. Whether Dak Prescott is the same guy that he was last year, or even just 3/4 of that, Ceedee Lamb's going to be getting all the targets.
Right, and I mean they haven't done much. They would need to draft a high-end player, and they might. But even then, think about it. Jake Ferguson got over 100 targets last year.
Yep.
Is that something they want to happen? If they bring in a second wide receiver, I think what happens is Michael Gallup was released. The second wide receiver probably takes a little from Jake Ferguson, probably collects all that wide receiver 2 business that Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup were so inefficient on. I see no reason why he wouldn't get peppered with targets again. is that a guy that you are? Who's your 101? Like if you had the first pick, would you take McCaffrey?
I'd probably actually I think I'd go and lean Tyreek Hill at
Yeah.
101. Just because especially with best ball, I want to get some wide receivers there a little bit earlier. Um, it's honestly it's doing you a disservice to try to like pick a guy who should be 101 because this is one of those few years where you really feel like you can go in any different direction. I mean, CMC, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, if Higgins is gone. I mean, all of those guys could absolutely be the 101. And then now we're looking at a team like the Falcons where like Bijan Robinson could very easily be the RB1 when it's all said and done. And we're talking about him being the top pick going into next year. So like there's a lot of different ways this can go. I know it's a cop out of an answer, but it's
No, that's the thing, dude, is that I hate the whole people talk about like cop outs. And also I've seen a lot of people basically say like, oh, if you're just going to go with consensus or lean into consensus, then then why even have a take? The whole thing is about being right and giving you the best chance to succeed.
Yep.
So the whole hot take community and that business going on and people trying to get attention, I'm done with that, man. Like I'm just doing my best to get things right. And if anything, if I have something that goes against the grain that I truly believe in and I share that and it gets attention, then it is what it is. But I'm not trying to go out of my way to be different and do hot takes. So never apologize for a take that you think gives our listeners information, gives them a chance to succeed. I just want to give a quick shout out to Ninja Chicken. He agrees with you on CeeDee Lamb. Ninja Chicken is in the chat as well. He is Boston money. So shout out to him. And also a quick shout out to the Twitch gang. Quit your glasses for the Twitch gang. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Brad McCoy coming over from Twitch. Everybody else on YouTube. He wants some late round draft picks. We'll get to that, my boy. Let us just get through these first couple rounds and we're going to dig into all of that here. I think I'm actually on the clock. So what were you about to say?
Well, what I was gonna say, man, is like fantasy football just lives in a gray area. We can't walk around. It's kind of like one of my like memes that I use from Star Wars all the time, where only a Sith deals in absolutes. Like we are constantly living in a gray area for fantasy football, where situations change, players develop, coaches move. There's times where we look at players like a Justin Fields, who everyone was in love with for so long, and this still doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad player, but he's definitely had a lot of bad scenarios. And there's so many other factors that go into it that, to try to look at these guys and act like there's absolutes, there's just not.
Exactly, dude. I love the Star Wars reference, man. Again, it's a range of outcomes, right? And too many people take the part of the range of outcomes and pick that as their prediction. What you should be doing is thinking about the range of outcomes, right? Excluding injury, because for every player, you include the Aaron Rodgers range of outcomes where the amount of fantasy points you score is 0, right? So you have to exclude the injury range and say, okay, this is the realistic 17 game range of outcomes. And then your prediction doesn't need to be smack in the middle. If you believe in the guy, you can have it up there. Just don't predict like the absolute ceiling, because it's just not a good way to prognosticate this, in my opinion. I got to ask you real quick on this one. When you look at the draft board here, Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously a big name here. We don't know where he's going to land, but he's almost certainly going to be, again, range of outcomes. He's probably going to be the first wide receiver, but he's definitely going to be one of the first 3. And he's almost certainly going in the first round of the NFL draft. So where do you think, what's the highest you would consider drafting Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I think, oh man, that's a great question. I'm at least right now, without knowing the landing spot, it's really tough to say. Let's assume that he goes number 4 to the Cardinals, and he is the primary target for Kyler Murray. Yeah, I think that you can look at him around that wide receiver, like 12 to 15 area. I think it's very reasonable to put him in the same bin as guys like Chris Olave and Rashee Rice and Brandon Ayuk's of the world. It's an incredibly talented player who's going to immediately be the number 1 wide receiver on his team. And we've seen rookies can produce. So it depends on how kind of risk averse you want to be. If you don't want any risk, then you just avoid him.
Ninja in the chat saying he sniped. Did you want Drake London there? I just kind of scrolled down a little bit to take
I wanted
London.
Drake London too.
We're in. Okay, we're all in on London then. It's like I love what Pete Overzet has been saying lately. Another Boston guy, Boston money. But the whole thing this year is scroll the F down. Basically saying that you don't have too many people are locked into ADP, and it becomes this like cycle of if we all stick to the ADP right now, then we're not going to make any adjustments moving forward, and we're going to screw the whole thing up. So, definitely feel free to scroll down. pick guys that aren't the top. Sometimes the best guys are the top, sometimes they're not. So, and just real quick for everybody out there, if you want to play with us in these drafts, first thing you got to do is get set up at Underdog. Use promo code ALARM. They'll match 100% of your deposit up to $100. We do all the contests over there. We do the pick'ems. We do, but best ball is my favorite one, and it's best ball season, and we're up and running now. So make sure you're set up with Underdog. Use promo code ALARM or hit that QR code that our producer Matt put up on the screen so nicely, and you can get in these. And if you want to do the ones with us live, where you can hang out in the chat, talking this and that, then you can go over and get set up with Fantasy Alarm in the Discord. That's where we get these all going. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win, get set up there. But yeah, good times all around, man. I love these, man. And Alfredo, you said last year you did like 100 of these. How many did you do before the draft? Like if you were going to assign a percentage, I like to do a few, but most of mine I do over the summer, right?
Yeah, that's how it ended for me. I'd probably say like 10% of mine were before the draft and seeing, like what advantages I could get on rookies. And then I just kind of waited for that NFL draft to happen. As soon as that happened, boom, like that was the time to go like that. You just hop right in.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's like right after the draft when we get the landing spots and stuff. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing right now. So I want to ask you a quick philosophy question then regarding rookies. We talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. In drafts like this before the draft. Do you like to lean into taking a lot of rookies, or do you kind of stick with more proven guys, or is it more of a mix for you?
So if we're talking before the NFL draft, I do tend to lean more towards players that are already on NFL teams, just because
Yes.
obviously what you're getting with them for the most part, right? Like injuries could happen, play falls off, things like that. But if, like, for example, if I'm looking at like a Chris Olave or a Malik Neighbors could absolutely be way more talented than Chris Olave, but at least I know what I'm getting with him. If Malik Neighbors ends up on the New York Giants and I'm worried about Daniel Jones throwing him the ball, that value sort of starts to shift a little bit. So I think it's one of those things you absolutely have to take into consideration.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I'm with you that I lean into. Basically, I make a list of guys that I know are definitively getting drafted, and I go for those guys because too many times I've made a mistake where I dig into the running backs and stuff, and I'll draft like Sean Tucker, and then he doesn't even get drafted like at all in the NFL draft. Like he goes completely
Yeah.
undrafted, and then the upside is a little rough there. So I can see Anthony in the chat saying he's watching on his phone. I know we have some people that listen in, so I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap. First round went about how you would expect. Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jefferson, Hall, Bijan, Puka Nacua at 9. If you think that's high, that's actually about where he goes in ADP. So you're just gonna have to deal with that. Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, AJ Brown, right? That's pretty solid there. Coming around, Kyron Williams, Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson. I gotta ask you real quick, Alfredo. Nico, if you had to pick one, would you pick Nico Collins or Tank Dell?
Oh man. Okay. So this is a tough one. I would probably just lean towards Nico Collins,
Mhm.
because I hate this answer, but he's got that traditional X receiver build to him that
It's
he'll
true.
probably end up being one of those guys down in the red zone for CJ Stroud. And we also got Tank Dell coming off of an injury, right? Like, and he could make an absolute full recovery, be perfectly fine for training camp. Like, this wasn't an ACL or an Achilles or anything like that. But guys coming off of injuries, it's tough. I'm actually really curious to see what the Texans do, because there was at one point rumored that they would trade Nico Collins to the Niners, and then at one point it looked like they were in play for Keenan Allen and get 3 receivers. I don't know what they're doing. It's going to be
Right.
really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and you took Brandon Ayuk, who plays essentially the same role in that same offensive scheme, right? The
Yep.
big outside wide receiver. They use, just like the 49ers, they use a fullback. So it's consolidated. Now, I'm going to throw the curveball to you. In this draft, Tank Dell went in the middle of the 3rd round. Nico Collins went at pick 14 overall. Would you rather have Nico Collins at 14 or Tank Dell at 32?
Tank Dell
That's
at
because
32.
I think that's it.
The
Yeah.
ADP becomes the big factor. Yeah,
That's a
1000%.
that's a big factor there. So, 2nd round, running back Saquon Barkley, Devin Achane. Then you have Marvin Harrison Jr., middle of the 2nd round, London Diggs, DJ Moore, Ayuk, Josh Allen, first QB in the second round. Deebo Samuel. Not a lot of surprises there. And again, with the third round, not a ton of surprises here either, if you ask me. Sam LaPorta going off as the first tight end. What do you think about that in the third round there, at the end of the third round? Sam LaPorta, tight end one for you right now?
I think you can make that argument. You might not like this, Coop. I don't know where you stand on it, but I sort of lean toward Trey McBride as being tight end one because I think there's going to be a lot more volume there for him than maybe a Sam Laporta. I don't know. You're the tight end whisperer, dude.
Alfredo, how dare you
Oh,
have such a good take on my show?
yes, there we go,
Yes,
baby.
because I'll tell you what, especially right now, I think, especially, and this is also full PPR. You're on the clock right now, Alfredo.
Yeah.
This is full PPR. There's two factors that make this particular moment, Trey McBride, the pick for me, simply because we know that for the Cardinals to make him not a top two target on the team, they essentially need to draft two wide receivers because I don't think Greg Dortch, maybe Michael Wilson, but probably not. I think right now he's the number one target on the team. So even if they take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4, he's going to be a top 2 target on the team. Whereas with some of these other guys, it gets a little spooky. Like we could see, all the and am I on the clock here? Yeah, I'm on the clock. All the Lions would have to do. What if the Lions trade up and take somebody in the first round, and now they have a stud wide receiver and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and LaPorta is battling to be the third guy, right? I mean, it's dicey. If they go through the draft and everything and don't take anybody, then we'll have to reevaluate. But at this moment, I lean into who has the best opportunity, and I think Trey McBride has the easier path.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if I remember correctly, was a lot of Sam Laporta's production kind of buoyed up by touchdowns, whereas McBride, it seemed like it was way more volume based, which is typically just always easier to predict.
I got all the numbers right here, dog.
Boy, look at you.
It's my responsibility. So Sam LaPorta actually only averaged 52 yards a game. A lot of it was touchdowns. He did get 120 targets, but I mean, we're looking for guys. We want guys that, especially in full PPR, targets are king, And when you look at Trey McBride, from the moment that Zach Ertz got hurt in week 7, and he did come back, but he asked to be released because McBride was the guy. From that moment on, the only tight end that got more targets than Trey McBride was Evan Ingram. And Evan Ingram had the 4th most targets of any player in the league. So that is, quite the honor and level of involvement for Trey McBride. And I don't see why that would change, man. So yeah, I'm liking McBride a lot, especially right now. And, again, after the draft, we always have to reevaluate everything. But at this moment, we got to be feeling good. The thing is, the Cardinals do have like 6 picks in the first 3 rounds, so they could draft multiple wide receivers. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I mean, they totally could. They have holes to fill on defense. They need offensive line help.
They need everything.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's the talk that they're going to be all in with Kyler and like that's their franchise guy. I mean, it doesn't really feel like you can go much more all in than having him with Trey McBride, who's already been very successful in the league, going Marvin Harrison in the top 5 picks. I mean, letting Michael Wilson develop, letting Greg Dortch kind of take on that slot role. If anything, he might need a little more help in the running game, better offensive line. There's other ways to go.
Yeah, and I think with the running, my opinion on that has always been that that's a luxury pick. I say you just run James Conner as long as you can, and then when you're truly ready to compete to win, then you make the luxury pick. That's when I go out and I draft a running back and I, get the hired gun at cornerback, or pass rusher, right? So I'm with you on that. Let me ask you. I'm about to double tap. So
if you take my guy, I'm gonna be so mad, Coop. I'm gonna be so mad.
I'm not sure if it
log right off.
I'm not sure if it is your guy, but I'm hoping it is, so we see you log off. But
okay,
what I was going to say is that I very rarely start with 4 wide receivers, so it's a very popular strategy. I did that here, and then I'm double tapping the older running backs that changed teams. What do you feel about the Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones RB stack there?
I see that. I'm a little bit more excited about Joe Mixon. I think that the stat bros are really upset about his efficiency and how it's fallen off over the years, and I get that. But oh baby, I'm sorry, I'm really excited. I'm gonna pause for a second because I am so excited to
So
draft
don't worry
Anthony
about Mixon.
Richardson right here.
There it is. All right, dude. Tell us
Bang.
about it. Tell us about it. Because
All right.
I love that pick, man. I love that pick.
Well, I mean, what did he go off the board as? Like quarterback 10 here?
Sorry about me minimizing the thing.
No, you're good, but
I
like
want this.
we got Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud, and rightfully so, I get it. But like, while Anthony Richardson was healthy, he was quarterback 3 in points per game as a rookie in his
Right.
first few games in the NFL. Now,
He
I'm
scored a
sure,
rushing touchdown every game.
yeah, and I'm sure there's people that are like, well, he got hurt. He's going to keep getting hurt because all he does is run. Guys, let's put that myth to bed. Last year, so many quarterbacks got hurt that were pocket guys. Like freak injuries happened. Lamar Jackson survived his entire season running around. Josh Allen survived his entire season running around like a toddler. Like it's get that out of your heads. If you're going for upside, especially in best ball, especially at a premium position that you start one guy like quarterback, Anthony Richardson is the guy for me. And wow, to see where he fell is just, it's crazy. But now I got to go make a pick.
Exactly. This isn't super flex. So you need to have multiple quarterbacks, 2 or 3 in this draft, but they can't be in your lineup every week. So Anthony Richardson, these mobile quarterbacks, who cares if he goes out 1 week and throws for 100 yards, it doesn't have a rushing touchdown, because you're going to have another quarterback, right? You don't even have to slot him into your lineup, right? And to your point, Edwin Porras pretty much debunked the whole mobile QBs get hurt more thing. Like he went in and did that. I think there's some narrative to it, but the way the game has been evolving and the way that pocket passers have been getting hurt too, I don't think I think the upside of the mobility is far more significant than the negative of the potential injury. So to recap for the people just doing the audio, here are the quarterbacks that have been picked so far. Josh Allen went in the 2nd round, Lamar Jackson in the 4th round, Jalen Hurts at the end of the 4th round, Patrick Mahomes in the 5th. Then it comes back around with CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, Jordan Love, and Anthony Richardson in the 6th. I'm on the clock right now, and I'm going to take, based on the conversation we're having, Kyler Murray.
There we go. I like that.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, if you take all quarterbacks all time and sort them by fantasy points per game, he is top 5. You can say what you want about his leadership. You can say what you want about him playing video games. You can say what you want about the way he scurries around with his little, toddler legs. He puts up fantasy points. So for me, that's where I'm at. And there's a couple decent QBs left here. So I wasn't pressured to take a QB there. It just felt like a good time to take one. So I'm feeling all right about it. What do you think about Kyler Murray? I would have taken Anthony Richardson over him. So I'm with you, Anthony Richardson over Kyler Murray. But for that type of quarterback, I don't mind getting him where I got him.
Yeah, I'm pretty in on Kyler, man. Like, I think he's one of these guys that it's just fantasy players have short memories. And, like we only look at what have he done for me lately. And Kyler missed so much of the season. And when he came back, he was good, but not great. And I think that too many fantasy managers are kind of like keeping that in the forefront of their minds without realizing the Cardinals didn't have much going on. And that was a brand new coach, brand new everything. Dude's coming back from a very serious injury. You give him a full offseason. You give him Marvin Harrison Jr. You continue to add pieces to this offense. Yeah, I mean, I think that Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, a lot of these mobile quarterbacks are going to end up being such good values because people are going to be pushing up other players that, I mean, probably are better in real football, but not as explosive or dynamic when it comes to fantasy football and scoring points.
Yeah, that's the thing is that we get our judgment gets clouded by that, right? I mean, there's a lot of players where we say everyone agrees they're good football players, but for fantasy football, that tricks us into taking them higher than usual. At tight end, it happens all the time. I mean, have you ever heard anyone say that Pat Freiermuth isn't a good football player?
No.
I mean, neither. I've been asking around because I'm like, there are even takes out there. Everyone likes the guy. George Kittle, everyone likes the guy, but because of the way the targets go and the target competition and sometimes the quarterback play, that they don't always live up to that hype. So you got to be very careful with that, because and at the same time, Joe Mixon, you can have all these people say that he's not efficient or that he's not good or he's not fun to watch, but he's been a top 10 quarterback in fantasy, top 10 running back in fantasy football in 3 straight years. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you play to win the game,
What?
So, yeah, that's right, dude. So let me ask you on tight end, and before I get to that, I'm going to recap the tight end position here. just with what's going on so far in this draft. And maybe I'm actually also on the clock, and I think I might take a tight end myself here. I think I'm going to. So I'm going to take a tight end right meow for my team, Mr. David Njoku. And then I'm going to recap it here. So Sam LaPorta goes off the board in the 3rd round. Coming back, Travis Kelce in the next round, and then Mark Andrews and Trey McBride. Dalton Kincaid at tight end 5, which my boy Icy didn't even give me a chance to take Kincaid, my baby. Kyle Pitts in the 6th, Evan Engram in the 7th, George Kittle in the 8th. Then Brock Bowers goes in the 8th, and Jake Ferguson and David Njoku to me. I want to ask first, Brock Bowers. What do you think about that as a rookie tight end pick? 8th round, so not a crazy investment, but are you willing to take him at this stage before the draft?
Sheesh. It really depends. I think right now a lot of the chalk is saying that Brock Bowers goes pick 10 to the New York Jets. And if he does that, I think that the ADP skyrockets up. I think the ADP goes nuts if he ends up on the Jets with Aaron Rodgers.
See, that scares me a little bit, just a little bit. For best ball, I don't mind taking guys with a 3rd target on their team if I think they can score a lot of touchdowns. But in redraft, I want guys that are going to be top 2 targets on the team, right?
Yes.
So for me, Garrett Wilson's 1. And now
Right.
the question is Mike Williams or Brock Bowers. And I mean,
I think we're even missing Brees. Brees might be number 2.
right. I mean, I will throw this caveat in there. Of the teams, because I've been tracking this for a long time, of the teams that have 3 guys get 100 plus targets, when the running back is involved, it does have that is the setup that happens more often than the other ones, and it's so you can kind of get away with it. Like we've had a year where Odell Beckham, Evan Engram, and Saquon Barkley all get 100 targets.
Right.
That was Evan Ingram's rookie year, and he was top 5. We've had years with Alvin Kamara and a year with Matt Forte. So it doesn't scare me as much, the Brees Hall, but the Mike Williams, I don't know, man. I don't know. So I want to see Brock Bowers go to a team where he's like the de facto top dog or top 2. That's what I want to see here.
Yeah, and like even then though, when do we really see that totally pan out? I know this past season we saw the rookie tight ends really, I mean, crush it, and we've seen it in the past a few times, right? Like Evan Ingram was great as a rookie.
Well,
I know I'm speaking your language here.
Let me throw a caveat on Ingram because what happened that year is Odell got 100 targets and then he hurt his knee, and then he missed the rest of the season. So Ingram might not have even have been one of those guys, man. Yeah, it's tough, dude. But yeah, go through the rest of them.
No, it's just like I think that what we tend to do with fantasy football is we tend to overreact to things and we tend to romanticize something that happens. And all of a sudden, we get a few rookie tight ends that play really well last year. And we're like, you know what? This can keep happening. And it's just like, no, we got to stop betting on outliers all the time. We see an outlier and we get so enamored with it. We're like, that's the trend. That's the trend. That's going to keep happening. And I'm going to be the guy that picks them this year. And it's just like, no, not every outlier becomes a trend. I know like at one point it was rushing quarterback as the outlier. That's crazy. But that was something that became sustainable because of a player's ability. Whereas like for tight end, it's mostly going to be based on just one of 2 things, volume or touchdowns. Sam LaPorta was touchdowns in a great offense that superseded anyone's expectations. And Trey McBride, nobody was drafting him in fantasy drafts. No. And it was injury to Zach Ertz. And there was so many factors that went to it.
The Zach Ertz injury is what unleashed the catalyst. I mean, you need that, and it's so rare for a rookie tight end. That's the problem. Is that a rookie tight end not only needs to be the best pass catching tight end on the team, but he also needs to be a top 2 target on the team. That's the truth. And it's so rare that a team drafts a tight end and says, we're going to try and compete right now with this, right? Like Kyle Pitts. They said, okay, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London. That's it. We're in. We're going with this guy. With Sam LaPorta, they did it. With Dalton Kincaid, they did it, but it happens so rarely that's why we get so many of these Michael Mayer situations where I still think he's a good tight end, but he's just, as a rookie, he was never going to get more targets than Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. It was never going to happen. So I think what's going to happen this year, Brock Bowers I think he's probably going to be worth drafting in redraft, and then a bunch of other rookie tight ends are going to be overdrafted. Jatavian Sanders and all these guys, unless they land in a perfect spot, I think they're going to be overdrafted.
Yeah, yeah, and I think listen, I'm not saying all this to kind of poo-poo any hype about Brock Bowers. Like it's very possible for him to be a top 12 tight end, especially with the way that situations have panned out for other guys like TJ Hawkinson and seeing how that has kind of just quelled everything over there in Minnesota. It's very possible for Brock Bowers to be good in his first year. But it's like you said, like there's not going to be many offenses where he's going to be the first or second target. And there's not going to be many offenses where he's going to be, if he is the first or second target, where that offense is actually good and gives him scoring opportunities.
I've got a landing spot for him in a whole situation where I would move him up in my rankings. I'm not even kidding. I'd probably move him up to like 5. In redraft and in dynasty, I'd probably move him up to like 1. You ready?
The anticipation is building. Let's go.
If the Chargers with the 5th overall pick, so we're talking everything comes together, perfect storm. The Chargers at 5 overall decide to draft Brock Bowers. And now you have Greg Roman calling the plays. The same Greg Roman that built the offense where Mark Andrews had a top 5 all-time season, right? If that were to happen after they released Mike Williams and traded Keenan Allen, I would find it very difficult not to rank Brock Bowers insanely high, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I get that. And that's the tough thing with rookies is like you could talk yourself into like, I'll take them really high because that sounds good on the surface. And then you have to like start going through the projections and the numbers of, well, how many pass attempts are they really going to have? Who else are they going to maybe sign at wide receiver? Like what else are they going to do? So, I mean, there's a lot of ways that goes, but yeah, I mean, that probably would be best case scenario where he's almost instantly the number 1 target in an offense that uses tight end.
So that's the thing is I look for cold water to pour on these situations. And that's one where I look around and there's not a whole lot of cold water there.
Right.
Like that would be like he would get the draft capital. He would get the scheme. He would have the lack of target competition. Like that would be perfect. And now that I've already like set that in my mind, when that doesn't happen, I'm probably gonna be reaching for the cold water. But there are a few spots out there where he could be top 2. But that's enough Brock Bowers. We shouldn't even be talking too much about rookies in this. I'm going to just give everybody a quick recap on the rest of the tight ends after that once I make my pick. I'm going to take.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I hate this pick that I'm making right now. Don't you love that when you sit here and you're like, wow.
You know what, though? I like it. I like it because I don't think that the Panthers are going to do anything at the running back spot. They're kind of tied into those 2 guys. And Chuba's the lead guy. I especially for best ball. I love those kind of confusing, ambiguous backfields. Like that's what I ended up doing over here on my team.
Yeah. So Chuba Hubbard was the pick for me. He's now my running back 3 after Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones. So I'm gonna have to smash on running back later. Let's look at some of these teams real quick. So my team, I'll do a quick recap. Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Michael Pittman, Malik Neighbors were my first 4 picks. I have no problem taking Malik Neighbors there, considering Marvin Harrison goes 2 rounds and 4. Then I took Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Kyler Murray, David Njoku, Dak Prescott, Xavier Worthy, Chuba Hubbard. So I'm loaded up at wide receiver, all set at quarterback. I'm going to need another tight end, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at my team. And then Alfredo, you want to give everybody a quick rundown of how your draft started here?
Yeah. So you want me to go in order? Or you want me to just list them? I'll go in order. I'll go in
order.
Let's go in order. Let's be smart, Alfredo. So I went Ceedee Lamb with pick 3, and Brandon Ayuk in the 2nd round came back in that turn with Chris Olave. So it's 3 wide receivers to start. Then Trey McBride in the 4th round as the tight end 2. James Cook was my first running back. Anthony Richardson. Then after that, at quarterback, Deontay Johnson, my wide receiver 4, who I love the idea of how much volume he can get in Carolina.
Great value.
Zamir White as my running back 2, which I might be a little high on him, but I think that Alexander Madison signing shows they might not be investing too much in running back. Then Brian Robinson as my running back 3, and Jonathan Brooks, my rookie RB1, as my running back 4 here for this team.
I love that, man. I love the Jonathan Brooks because, we've seen it just last year. Breece Hall coming off of ACL. He got healthy and he was himself, and he finished as the RB2, even though he was, came in a little slow. Like Jonathan Brooks, if he gets healthy and comes in and he's himself, then he's the RB1. He was if he didn't get hurt, everyone would have him RB1. Would they not?
Well, and Oh, yeah. I mean, I still have him as RB1, just with the understanding, especially after he gave the news that he will be active, running around and doing everything, and done with rehab prior to training camp. That had me saying, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna keep him as the RB1." And then this little tidbit of information was like really cool to hear, and a big credit to Brett Coleman, who does excellent work, great content, big on NFL draft and rookie stuff. He brought up a report that the Dallas Cowboys team doctor is the same doctor that did the surgery on Jonathan Brooks. So they know a ton about this kid. He's already a Texas kid as well, and they really haven't spent anything on running back. So I'm with that. I'm starting to believe the narrative that he could end up in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, that's Jack Sensen. He's on board with that in the chat. That's Kismet in the draft here. He wants him with the Cowboys.
Yep.
And I think the Cowboys approach, I mean, they said they want to take a cost conservative approach to the running back position. That tells me potentially drafting one. And I will say this, especially for your Zamir White pick, I saw people say with Alexander Madison went there, they didn't like it. They were like, oh no. And I'm like, dude,
Dude, it's great.
that's the exact guy you want them to draft.
Yes.
The devil is better than the one you don't every
Like
time.
I'm sorry, Alexander Madison couldn't stop Ty Chandler last year, and
No.
I am a big Ty Chandler stan. Like I love him. I think Zamir White has shown that with volume, he was running even better. So yeah, I'm all with Zamir White.
Yeah. While you pick here, you're on the clock now. I'm going to go through and just give people an idea where the rookies are going in this best ball draft. For those listening at home, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. going in the middle of the second round at pick 18. Then we don't see another rookie go until the fourth round, where yours truly took Malik Neighbors. And I think that a lot of people have him, those guys, interchangeable up there. So I don't see why Neighbors should go that far. I would take Marvin Harrison ahead, but Malik Neighbors shouldn't be going that far behind him.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
So then you get next rookie, not until the sixth round, where you have Rome Odunze go. Let me know when I'm on the clock here. So
You're on the clock right now, my man.
Excellent. I'm going to select a player that plays football.
Narrowing it down.
To Michael Wilson is who I'm going to take with my pick there. We talk about opportunity, and he's going to be the split end there. We'll have to see what else they bring in. Probably it could be Marvin Harrison, could be Malik Neighbors, any of those guys there. But so yeah, let's get back to it. The sixth round, Roma Dunze went. In the seventh round, Brian Thomas Jr. So all rookie wide receivers, and it's a great rookie wide receiver class. So I'm not at all surprised with that. In the eighth round, you have Brock Bowers going. In the ninth round, actually, no. So after Bowers, there's a big drop off, and that's kind of the way I play, Alfredo. We talked about it earlier. The guys that we know are going to go in the first round, they get a premium, and then there's kind of a glob after that where you just got to take your stab. The next rookies off the board were actually me taking Xavier Worthy, and I took him because fast and shiny. Those are my only reasons. You took the first running back with Jonathan Brooks. And then after that, this is where we started saying, basically people do what I do is they look and say, okay, now we got a bunch of boring guys. I'm just going to take my shot on upside.
Yes.
So
that is 1,000%.
Yeah. So instead of taking some of these rotational guys like Braxton Berrios, who's never going to play a full snap share, people are saying, I'll just take Trey Benson and I'll take Adonai Mitchell, who you took, Troy Franklin, Ladd McConkey. I mean, they just started flying off the board here. Towards the end, we also seen, I took Blake Corum, who is as boring as you can get for a rookie, but I think could have a starting job. Marshawn Lloyd to Kismet. I think that's a great pick. We had Derek Brown on the show a couple weeks ago. He loves him. And then that's it for rookies for the time being. But we'll get back to those soon. I'm back on the clock here. But yeah, of those rookie picks that you didn't pick, who are some guys that you like for best ball that you would take now? And why is it Xavier Worthy?
Man, let's see. As much as I'd love to give you your props on Xavier Worthy, I mean, if we're going later on these rookie picks, I think some of these guys like Keon Coleman is fun if you're getting him at that price. Ladd McConkey is a pretty easy one as well if he's going to be getting peppered with targets wherever he goes. Man, I think the one that you listed earlier, the disparaging, like the disparity, excuse me, between Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. was actually just kind of wild to me.
Yeah, it's like, and again, you don't have, it's not like you have to look at the Marvin Harrison Jr. pick and say, oh, that's too early. But
Right.
if you think Marvin Harrison Jr. is that good, then Malik Neighbors should probably be going in that range. And we got McGonigal in the chat asking if Jalen Polk is gone yet. No, he's not.
Nope.
And that is a another interesting play. They have 3 wide receivers coming out of that squad that are very interesting. The thing with Polk for me is that I look at and I say, am I going to take him, or I'm going to wait and take his counterpart over there coming out of Washington. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see where those guys go. I'll let you know when they come off the board. So for you, Alfredo, when you do these, what's your overall strategy for quarterback and tight end? Do you like taking 2? Do you like taking 3? Do you go with 4 tight ends at times? Like where do you live with best ball? Like what's your ideal build?
I'll usually go 3 quarterback, 3 tight end. If I see a good value on a hero type tight end or a hero type quarterback, like what I got here, I'm going to do that. Last year, I had most of my success on players that were not, like the studs, like Josh Allen and stuff like that. It was a lot of my builds that had Tua. Let me make my pick right here. And we're running low on time.
Oh,
Oh God. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Not in love with it. That's the first one where I say I'm not in love with it, but I'm willing to bet on Bryce Young this year making some sort of leap, at least more so in best ball. After seeing how Dave Canales has been with Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield, they got a good offensive line in front of him, adding Deontay Johnson, so I get a little bit of the stack there for my best ball lineup. I'll take him here if I need to as my second quarterback.
I'm actually fully on board with it, man. Like I have no problem taking Bryce Young. I went early with 2 quarterbacks. I took Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. So when I take 2 quarterbacks that early, I'm done. But I am absolutely drafting Bryce Young. They changed the coaches. They got good new wide receivers. They spent $150 million on guards,
Whew.
just guards. They went out and got Hunt from the Dolphins, and they also got they spent another 50 million on another guard. Sorry, it escapes me right now. But yeah, they're loading up on protection. And I will say this, with Trevor Lawrence, we gave him a pass when they fired the coach and they fired everybody. And then he came back and it was like, oh, wait a second. In a real offense, he looks good. I think for Bryce Young, we got to give him a little bit of a pass, right? And just, hey, you know what? New offensive line, new weapons. Let's give him one more shot. And if he face plants this year, then we can just be like, all right, we're done with this guy, right?
Yeah, and I think that's what the NFL is going to do as well. They're doing everything they can to, like, okay, we brought in a quarterback whisperer, we got offensive line, we got a receiver that gets open. The thing is, they're doing everything right. They're doing everything to fix all the wrongs from last year. And so if he really can't succeed in this, then cool, we're going to know immediately. But one of our own over at Footballguys, Jeff Bell, he has said that Bryce Young might be the best or cheapest investment right now to make in dynasty football because people are willing to sell him for a lot less than whatever his price was last year as a rookie.
Yeah, and Jeff Bell is really good at that. First off, he's good at kind of thinking against the grain, and then he's good at putting that into a tweet that makes everybody really upset. But a lot of times he's right though. A lot of times he's right because he at this part of the draft, you got to ask yourself early in the draft. We say why, right? Why am I spending up on this player? At this part of the draft, you got to start saying why not, right?
Yes.
Why not? So with you drafting Bryce Young, I look at Adam Thielen. It's like now they have Deontay Johnson, but Thielen's still one of the top focal points of this team. Last year, he was wide receiver 17. Right now on Underdog, he's going off the board at wide receiver 72. So, it's like, it's not like this guy tore his knee up or anything. I mean, it's just like they added another wide receiver, and now he goes from 17 to 72. To me, that's a spot where I can get some value back, right? I've taken some stabs on rookies and all these guys that, Xavier Worthy, all these guys that are complete in the range of I don't knows. So now I'm going to take guys like that. Here's another one that I think is kind of interesting. I'll give you my case point for him. But this is a guy that typically I would never draft. Right now, I'm drafting him. It's Tyler Boyd. And
Okay.
my thought process on that is this. At one point, he was an every down player, right? When he played with AJ Green, when he played with just T. Higgins before they drafted Chase. And in those seasons, he played flanker and then moved to the slot for 3 wide receiver sets. And he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And then they brought in 2 good wide receivers, and he became a part-time player. But now he's a free agent. He's 29 years old, so he's younger than Tyreek Hill and Amari Cooper and all these guys. What if a team does pay him and say, hey, you know what? For us, you are going to for on that team, you were a part-time player. For our team, you're going to be a full-time player. That's why I look at it and I say, let's see what happens, right? Let's see what happens. And if another team signs him to just be the slot guy, well, guess what? Now he's just Tyler Boyd, and I drafted him at the spot where you would draft just Tyler Boyd, right?
Well, and right now he's in like a sort of a weird purgatory where his value just could go up exponentially, right? Like there's been talks about him joining the Steelers and he can go and replace Deontay Johnson over there.
Nice.
If he goes back to the Bengals and they trade T. Higgins, like there's a lot of things that could go really, really right for Tyler Boyd. He feels like one of those guys that where the floor is, but the ceiling can always go up, right? Like the floor, I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be a zero guy. Like he's always going to be one of those wide receiver 3s that we can count on.
Right. That's the thing is that somebody, even if they just use him as a slot guy, I'm getting the value that like Tyler Boyd's being drafted right now as if he is the slot guy for the Bengals, where he could just go somewhere to be the third fiddle. But there are teams out there. We talked about the Cardinals that just like don't have any wide receivers really. You know,
I'm running out of time.
Yeah, he would immediately.
I missed it. That's
actually
fine.
I don't mind that pick at all. That's actually a great pick.
He was the only player in my queue because I was like, I think I can draft Greg Dulcich because the values right now is crazy. Him being like tight end, whatever it was, like 33 or something. It's wild to see where he is. He may end up being nothing, but at this point, like just take your shots on guys.
Yeah.
I was sitting here thinking he might be there next round.
Yeah, Brian just took my guy, which that's disappointing to see.
Oh, come on, Brian.
Brian is you better bet. That's he took Keaton Mitchell, which I know he's coming off the knee, but I thought for me, you never know. You know what I mean? You never know what could happen next. I'm running out of clock here too. Good. Whatever. That's
who I was gonna draft as
Wanda Robinson. Yeah, because it's like at this stage we're like, okay, who's gonna lead that team in targets? But with tight ends, I look at it and say, okay, who could be a top 2 target on the team, right? Like I took Hunter Henry because they just brought him back. They have Alex Van Pelt coming in, who dialed up 20 screens last year for David Njoku. Only Evan Engram had more with 21. And I look and say, who's catching the ball over there, right? Like, even if they draft a wide receiver, he could be the second best pass catcher on the team. It's like him and Demario Douglas and Juju, right? So that's what I look for. And I look at Greg Dulcich, who you just took. And after Cortland Sutton, there's a conversation to be had that, he could end up being, the Jimmy Graham and Sean Payton's offense. Like, he's competing with Tim Patrick and every wide receiver that's ever played for the Saints, you know what I mean? That's now come over. And Joe Lombardi brought over Michael Bandy, right? But like, I don't know, Lil Jordan Humphrey, is he going to get, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to step up over there? So that's with Jerry Jeudy gone. I look and say, who's next man up, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about Marvin Mims, who I drafted on this team.
Yeah,
but I think there's a lot of value to be had in this uncertainty over there in Denver. And I think that with, we still don't really know who the quarterback is going to be. And so it may all be for naught. Like if it's Bo Nix and we're dealing with Bo Nix throwing to Marvin Mims throughout the season, it's probably not awesome. But I think at least right now, this is a calculated risk that you can take on these players that have high upsides.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Sean Payton, he came out mid-season in like October. Somebody at Reporter, I love when beat reporters do fantasy community a solid and just say, hey, why isn't this guy playing? Right.
Yep.
So they asked about Marvin Mims. I'm on the clock now. I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins.
My God.
I know, dude. No! I was just like, now that I've talked to you for 50 minutes, I'm like, who's Alfredo going to take here? I'm telling you. It's like when Michael
Don't invite me back.
Michael Jordan said that his favorite part of going to play going to play on the dream team was finding out what everybody else would do in practice and in games so he could use it against them in the NBA. That's what I've been doing for the last hour, is figuring out how you think so I can snipe all your players.
I mean, you
Uh,
did, dude.
yeah.
It's oh.
But I'll tell you, Marvin Mims, basically what Sean Payton said was, he said it's hard to get him and Jerry Jeudy on the field at the same time because they have an overlapping skill set, right? He's like, I like what he does with
Okay.
handoffs. I like what he does with everything. He's like, so that's why they weren't on the field at the same time. Well, Jerry Jeudy's gone, right? So what now, Sean? Right?
That's That's interesting. I don't know how much I believe the whole overlapping skill set thing. And also, like, if you're a good coach, you just get players on the field regardless of the skill set. You go and you use the talented guys.
Well, he had to get all these snaps for Adam Trotman and Lil Jordan Humphrey and
God.
Traquan Smith,
Yeah,
right? Like you
yeah.
had, I
No
think
overlapping skill sets there.
right, exactly. But to your point earlier, you talked about big, like Cortland Sutton plays a totally different position from Jerry Jeudy. He's a big split end, right? Like if you're saying Sutton is your Mike Evans or DK Metcalf or Nico Collins, and then you have the Tank Dell or Chris Godwin or Tyler Lockett opposite them. I guess an argument could be made that you would only have room for one guy to be in that role. So that I'm with that's where I like the Marvin Mims pick for you. I would have liked it better for me. But I think it is a good pick.
Man,
Here's a
as we're getting like deeper into this. Oh, Kendrick Bourne. Okay.
homer
Okay.
picks. Well, that's the thing is I'm saying, okay, if it's not Hunter Henry, who's it gonna be? Well, I'll take my stab in the 19th round on Kendrick Bourne.
You're not a KJ Osborne stan? You're not gonna get on the table for KJ Osborne?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. I will say shout out to him for that one of the few players my wife knows the name of because he saved one of her reality TV stars in a car accident. Did you hear about that?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
big fan of it. The challenge I think the guy is on. I don't know his
Uh-huh.
name, but KJ Osborne, man, shout out, rising up in an occasion to really help this guy in a tough situation. But you don't really get a lot of fantasy points for that, and I'm just not sure the the value what they signed him to compared to what they signed Kendrick Bourne to. I tend to follow the money,
Yeah.
and
No, that makes perfect sense.
Bourne got a lot of money, and the incentives for Bourne. You have to look. People are like, oh well, only some of the contract is guaranteed for Kendrick Bourne. But when you look at when you really consider the details of those contracts, with incentives, they're considered either likely to be earned or not likely to be earned. And if they're not likely to be earned, they don't count against the salary cap. Well, what determines whether they're likely to be earned or not is last year's stats. And Kendrick Bourne, because he got hurt midseason, had very low stats. So what they basically did is they set up this contract where he's going to get paid most that money, but a huge chunk of it isn't guaranteed and doesn't count against the cap. But all he has to do is be himself and not get hurt to get that money. You know what I'm saying, Alfredo? So I think they did. Like at the end of the day, I think what he's actually going to get is a lot closer to the high end number than it is to the $16 million guaranteed number. And that's my Kendrick. That's my Kendrick Bourne stump speech right
Yeah, but I mean, at this point of the draft, like just take dudes that you think have a good shot at being good at football. Like, there's not a whole lot of in-depth analysis that goes into your round 18 through 20 picks here.
now. Like, are they? I'm looking at these guys down here, and now I'm just going to start making my picks based on. I just took Alec Pierce, which is a boring pick, but like I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, this guy Brendan Rice is the son of Jerry Rice, uh, right? Like it's like Frank Gore Jr.'s here. Like that's when you get to the 20th round. Sometimes you got to start making picks like that. But yeah, so yeah, that was my last pick. I think you have your last pick coming up here.
Coming up, yeah.
Why don't you make your last pick and then tell
Boy.
everybody what you got going on, what's popping, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, man. Well, here we go. Last pick. Surprised this guy's still not on a team yet. Deontay
Right?
Foreman. Let's see. Let's see what happens for him. I needed one more running back, but yeah, man. First of all, you could follow me over on Twitter at the Pretend GM, and you can always check out all my work over at Footballguys, where I co-host the Footballguys Fantasy Football Show with Dave Kluge. During the season, we are on Monday through Friday, and then we have a Sunday morning live show with Joey Wright and Jagger May and a whole bunch of our great staff members over at Footballguys. And then right now we're going to be doing a whole bunch of rookie stuff. We're going to be diving into some rookie prospect profiles, and we have some great guests coming on. We just had Marcus Grant. So yeah, you can check all of that over at YouTube /Footballguys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I love the crew you got over there. I'm actually doing a show with Jagger this afternoon. It's some stupid thing.
Horrible person. Horrible person.
Yeah, horrible person. Some stupid thing Chuck Bass put together. So it's going to be complete nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
That should be fun. But yeah, thank you for coming on, man, dude. You're the best. Are you going to come to FSGA Boston in the summer, dude?
I'm not making it to Boston. I did just go to the one that was recently in Las Vegas, but
of course you go to Vegas. Yeah.
No FSGA Boston for me, but I will be at the Expo in Canton.
Cool. I'll be there as well. Quick shout out to all the Fantasy Alarm members that drafted with us today. Icy Through, Hamburglar, Sigma Chai, the Gridiron Granny, Brian, Ninja Chicken. This is Ninja Chicken's first one. We give out badges.
Oh.
I set up some badges on the Discord recently where it's like you get a badge if you participate, you get a trophy if you win. If you win multiple, which only Kismet has done and myself, you get a crown. Right. So shout out Gringo Loco, Just Bruce B, Jack Straw, Steel Lifer. Thank you guys for joining in. If anybody wants to get down on these, go to Underdog, get set up over there, use promo code ALARM, and they'll give you 100. They'll match up to 100% of whatever you deposit, up to $100. You put in $20, they'll match 20. You put in 100, they'll match 100, and get set up there. And then go over to fantasyalarm.com/win and get set up with a membership. The annual membership's 40% off right now. And if you do it right now, that gets you all the football content, but baseball starting right now. So get you the full baseball season. Basketball, you'll have basketball and hockey are in playoffs for fantasy. So it gets you basically the whole season of fantasy next year for that. Like the annual is the way to go. We have picks for NASCAR, DFS. We have obviously our MMA guy, Mike Iannone, takes down the left hook himself all the time over on DraftKings and those sites. So get set up over there. We're crushing PGA, all that at fantasyalarm.com. But that's it for us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, everyone who joined us for the draft, and especially Alfredo, our guest. Thank you, buddy. We're out of here.
Nico.